I'm Adrienne Giffen, and this is Now You're Talking. Parenting in the digital world can feel overwhelming, especially when you're balancing a career, raising teens and preteens, and trying to keep up with it all. Screens are constant, and sometimes real connection feels out of reach. This podcast is your chance to pause and breathe, a space for stories and insights that bring encouragement, perspective, and the reminder that you are not alone. Parenting in the digital age can feel overwhelming, but you don't have to do it alone. In this episode of Now You're Talking, I sit down with Carolyn Tuckwell, President and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of South Coast, BC. Carolyn shares powerful insights on raising kids in a screen-saturated world, the importance of informed consent, and how community leadership creates safe, supportive spaces for youth. We explore what it really means to listen, engage, and measure impact when helping young people thrive, both as parents and as a community. Please subscribe, rate, and share this podcast. Let the conversations begin. Carolyn, thank you very much for joining me today and agreeing to be my guest. And I want to congratulate you because I know you wouldn't mention this for achieving the King or receiving the King Charles III Coronation Medal for your community and leadership contribution for the Boys and Girls Club for the South Coast of BC. So I had to just say that right off the bat because that is amazing.
Thank you very much. It makes me a little uncomfortable, and I appreciate that very much, though, because it did feel very special.
Well, so I just want to get your perspective. And you've watched the whole digital age come in and evolve and take on a life of its own. And from your perspective, being the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club in BC, and I just want you to sort of give and share your perspective on that and what that's been like, please.
Yeah, well, this is a great conversation, a great place to start, because there's no doubt that we all were sort of taken by storm, maybe, around social media. And it really was a collision of the hottest new thing. Everybody wanted it. It's going to change the world. It actually was so accessible. Like that became so accessible so quickly to all because of technology being more available and present in our communities and in the lives of kids and families. And we are an employer of young people. 70% of our employees, and we here in BGC, South Coast BC, have more than 300 employees. About a third of those are regular full-time, and the other 2/3 would be part-time seasonal employees. 70% of that group are under the age of 30. And that is good for the work we do because it's role models who are closer to the age of our participants who really then can bring that relationship building. Also the group that were right in the technology,
embracing it.
Use it for everything. It's the miracle for our world. I was immediately nervous. And in fact, I opened an Instagram account as my dog in order to actually practice because I wanted nothing to do with being followed. I'm a woman. That felt creepy to me. All of the social media, the Facebook, all of that. So I opened this Instagram account to actually test whether, not for me, but as my dog, George, I could test to see if the rules to be safe, to navigate that world safely, if those worked, if you used them rigorously as an adult. So that was a good learning. Alongside that, though, we quickly knew we needed to consider is informed consent. Because early on in those days when social media was exploding, we were already seeing harm done through social media to individuals. And the reality in those first few years, it became very clear that as soon as you put your content out there in any of those platforms, It no longer belongs to you.
Interesting. Yes.
So you put something out there, it is there theoretically forever because you don't own it anymore. And that was a very big bucket of ice water in our faces when we realized that.
And is that in those things, that's in all the things that we agree to when we click that little button terms?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the 5,200 pages of text, that is embedded.
Yes.
The companies who own those platforms own that content. So we had to consider whether what young people might post in the context of their relationship with us, whether they're coming to one of our clubs or one of our counseling programs, could we feel 100% or even 90% confident that they were in a position to give informed consent to share that information with the world, that they were connected with us through a counseling program here, a drug and alcohol counseling program, or needed employment program support.
Right. And would have no idea that it was out in the world forever and
exactly. And that could come back to them that pretty quickly, and we saw this too, pretty quickly, employers were using it to screen employees, scraping their social media accounts to see what's there, any conflict. Or when employees started to run into trouble, perhaps with performance, that would be engaged. And then that was used as part of the cases against whether or not they were the right fit.
Yes.
So that very quickly brought us to realizing that our responsibility in our relationship with our participants caused us to say, actually, no, we are not opening those channels as a way for kids and families to communicate with us. We very carefully selected the ways we would use the channels for communication with parents as appropriate, but not to open two-way channels, to push information out, to not have the two-way communication, so that we weren't complicit in having supported kids to put content out into the world that someday could harm them.
You must have been, how much resistance did you get when you made that decision?
It's such a good question. And it was very difficult because going back to our employee group, young employees, many in their early 20s and very passionate about this and how could we be so archaic. And it took very careful work and transparency. So when we were able to actually present that piece, to speak to that piece, we have a responsibility to decide whether these kids are in a position to be giving informed consent for the implications of this being an open channel.
Yes.
That we don't own it and they don't own it. They did come around and they appreciated it. And what happened, what we saw out there, in particular in the groups that we know best, who are other nonprofits, policy hadn't been developed. It was just like, go gangbusters, look how
wild west.
The intoxication of easy and fast and free or affordable got way out ahead of the critical thinking that is required in the best interests of kids. And since those days, we've seen nothing but effort to claw back, create guardrails. We've seen legislation across our country change. Bringing devices back out of schools, shutting down those channels for this very reason, informed and consent.
Consent. So because you didn't start it, or it wasn't all a free-for-all right at the beginning, you haven't had to pull it back. It was sort of status quo, so you were not put in that position.
It's really true. And then the happy development is that we encouraged kids to be engaging in our programs when they're attending. And so I'll sometimes lightly, I do like a little comedy in my life and in my work, you know me about in that regard.
Yeah.
The quickest way to get kids to really want to do something, tell them they can't, make it against the rules. So we've never had a no phones policy in our in our programs. What we have said and what we've committed to is creating the guidance and the encouragement for kids to think about really what they're there for. And so if you need to use your phone, of course. And we have computers in all of our clubs that, kids can use for their homework, etc. But really, what we do during the out of school hours is provide a safe, supportive, supervised, but doesn't feel like it, place for kids for social recreation, building relationships outside of school, moving their bodies, failing safely, doing all of the things kids should be doing, which do not have to live on these devices. Human interaction is what we all need. And in these days of social media, we need more of it. We're not villainizing it. We're not saying it doesn't have a role. But when you give kids the opportunity to get the one thing that they don't get enough of in their lives, which is self-directed, safe opportunities to play, be with their friends at any age. Hang out, whatever play looks like developmentally across those childhood years, that kind of place where they do that, they get to choose what they're doing, how they're spending their time there, who they're spending their time with, but not through a screen. And
so when you observe, how many kids are on their screens?
It would be the minority. You walk into a club, you might see a kid on a screen, or they go to their cubby to get their phone because they need to let their parent know where they are, or check in about pickup time, or tell their parent that they're going to head home shortly. But it's rare to see kids huddled up in the corner, lost in their screens on their own.
And what about, because you said your employees are younger, how do you manage your employees around digital?
That is a great question. That is where we have roles. You cannot be supervising kids if you've got a screen in front of your face.
Okay.
And so we ask staff to actually only use their devices for reporting incidents, asking for help, communicating something critical. And so whether it is a club cell phone or their own, is what we've done is defined the purposes for that. And we have supportive, clear feedback. We're not out to get anybody, and we understand that things happen, that people need to maybe check their devices. But really, it's the why.
So tell me more about that.
Yeah. So if you're in a deep conversation on your device, you're not supervising kids. And that's the rule. That's what staff are there for. Supervising, engaging with, and interacting with kids, leading programs, being with them. And that's also, I would argue, and I think argue is a big word, but we would propose that also what kids need more of in their lives is adults being in communication, in conversation with them, not just pushing directions and or information at them, but adults listening to them. Communication is two-way, and kids receive appropriately an awful lot of instructions, redirections. Kids are interesting human beings. We were from the time we started. And kids need more of that. And that's really what we're after with helping our young staff to understand. What they're there for is not only head bonks and jumping in if there's been, an injury or if there's a conflict, but in fact, engaging, being a mentor and a role model. And you don't do that when your face is behind a device.
Yes. And how do you teach that? As far as how do you as a leader teach that to your team? Because it doesn't always, especially if your teams have been talked at.
Yes.
It's a learned skill.
Yeah.
That it may not have been modeled for them.
Yeah. It's really true. It's such a great question, Aid, because we really over the last, really with the emergence of our understanding of how deep and wide diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts need to be in order to be meaningful, that it's really at the core of that is acceptance of all.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
When we're in the business of taking care of other people's children,
Yes.
and we know other people's children, families have come here from everywhere, with the exception of our Indigenous friends who host us here. And as we think about this work, we need to make very careful and strategic decisions and build policy and practice around the recognition that we're not trying to redefine who kids are or where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to add in. And getting to know kids, each individual one, for who they are is at the core of that. No two kids, even if they're siblings, even if they're twins, are exactly the same.
Yes.
So the work of our staff is to build these natural relationships with guardrails and boundaries.
Yes.
And so we've done the work to define what that means in the employer-employee relationship, which was really hard. But it was actually an exercise to to straighten up the lines, the box lines of what it means to be an employee. And inside that box is a greater level of acceptance of each individual and the agreement to work in very specific ways with kids that we know are developmentally appropriate and good for kids. And so we really discourage the concept of we're like family. Our staff are like family to kids.
Because there's boundaries. Yes.
So it doesn't mean we don't care for our participants, but our relationship is not a social or a personal one. We have an obligation to the parents to be this place that doesn't interfere with their parenting, allows their culture and their family's interests and ideas to remain present while we actually focus on what we know are principles of really solid, healthy child development. So, yeah.
It's so complex. And through your leadership, it sounds simple, but, huge complexity goes into that to put those safeguards and boundaries in place. And in the ripple effect, everybody benefits from that, and everybody learns from one another. So right from your team and then to the children, to the parents, to the families, to the siblings, everybody is affected. Yeah, through all these decisions.
And so that's absolutely right, Aid. And I think what we also have been able to do with the help of a brilliant academic, Dr. Steve Patty, whose work has been about evaluation and measurement, he helped us to build a very rigorous quantitative and qualitative measurement approach that helps us measure the impact we have in the lives of kids, them against them. So not like at school where they're on a bell curve. Nothing wrong with school, not criticizing that.
No.
That is the academic model, and we all benefit from it to varying degrees. It's hard for some, it's easy for others, all of that.
Yeah.
But this is about our ability to use a rigorous measurement approach to understand quantitatively. Kids do surveys. Hundreds of our kids every year do surveys to tell us how club has impacted them. So a couple of sound bites.
Yes.
90% of kids report that they have more people in their lives that they care about.
So tell me more about that. How has the impact that you've had in your clubs? Why does that happen?
Well, it comes back to that very careful focus we have in our programming and in helping our staff to understand how they interact with kids and how we build programs that support kids to have these learnings in the context of a place where they're hanging out and playing. And so it's how staff interact with them. I'll give you an example that I love to share. It's participate in this evaluation because it keeps me close to the work. It helps me to know, okay, this is what it looks and feels like. 9-year-old girl. I'm sitting talking with her, going through this protocol of evaluation with her. And it's just a conversation to her.
Yes.
And she's cute as a button, as 9-year-old girls are, as all 9-year-olds are. And she's telling me about the difference that she noticed with club staff compared to other adults she experiences in other parts of her life. And she said, club staff stop and they'll sit down with you and help you to understand a concept. So what she was talking about was boundaries. And she said, other grown-ups tell me what boundaries are. Last week, I was in a fight with my best friend at club, and I was upset. And the club staff, which they refer to as staffs, the staffs sit down with you. And she named the staff, sat down with me and helped me to understand that in that fight, I wasn't respecting my best friend's boundaries. And that's why she was mad at me. And the staff helped me to understand how maybe I could talk with her about that. And we're friends again. And I know better. I now understand what boundaries are. Other adults were telling me to respect boundaries. But when the staff sit down and talk with us about it, just me and her, that helped me to understand.
Wow. You demonstrate it.
Exactly. And it's this relationship work that is so important. And I think sometimes kind of considered to be intangible or hard to train. And we've had the good fortune of connecting with people who, like Steve Patty, who brought methodology to us that would help us to actually measure it. Because the other things he talks about, evaluation is leadership. When you evaluate your work,
yes,
it's a form of leadership. And that means so much. That just really captures it because it's circular then. By going through this exercise, we learned how to better support our staff to understand why this work matters, why it matters we do it this way and not that way, why we're not just sitting not to take away from lifeguards. We love lifeguards. But that's not our model of supervision, sitting on high chairs around, just making sure nobody's gone underwater.
Yes.
We're in it. We are the water wings. We are the,
And you're the water wings. That's perfect. I love that. So, but you're constantly tweaking and making better. And that takes courage too. And it takes time and commitment to do that.
Yeah. It does. It takes patience. And what I think is what I feel I'll say I feel very proud of this work that we've done. Also, I think it's so important because these things that have felt intangible to all of us. How do you measure relationships? How do you know, other than a staff satisfaction survey, whether you've had the impact you're after? And, they fall short because there's not, satisfaction is not the measure of whether at work you feel really good about the work you're doing.
Yes.
To feel good, you need meaningful feedback. You need to understand clearly what the targets are. And when you do this kind of work, pretty quickly, it's easy to understand why that part's hard.
Yes.
Elusive.
Yes. Because it isn't tangible. So you can't, it's a feeling.
It's a feeling. And so the call for us, and this comes back to our obligation is to every single parent who trusts us to have their kids in our programs when they aren't at home or at school. And how do we honor that obligation? It's not a babysitting. It's not lifeguarding eyes on. It is alongside adding in to that kid's life and to the family's life.
Yes. So when that 9-year-old says from her heart that this is her perception of boundaries and how she has boundaries imposed on her regularly, it sounds like, but when she can actually hear and internalize that and then take that forward as a life lesson. It's like that's an enormous gift that you're giving these young people.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So going back to the digital and how you knew the Boys and Girls Club before digital happened and you know it now.
Yeah.
What can you say? what lessons did you learn besides what we've talked about? You've talked a lot about, but are there any other lessons that you can share with parents that may be helpful?
Yeah. Well, let's start with boundaries.
Okay. Yes.
We know parenting's hard.
Yes.
And parenting is for life.
Yeah.
And in humans, the lion's share of human development happens in the first 25 years. The human brain doesn't stop developing. Dr. Jean Clinton has proved that until 25 or maybe a little older. So our responsibility as grown-ups during that time, first and foremost parents, in all the different ways, is to make that the collection of the best developmental experiences for kids. Not all sunshine and lollipops, all the learning alongside all the fun and joyfulness. And so when we think about parents, we know how hard it is. We know the pressure that parents feel to protect, to be a great parent, to provide everything, to make ends meet is always on the list. And so we first want parents to remember it is hard. It's not just them. Mm-hmm. So one of the most important jobs you can have is to be a parent to a human. Everybody's doing their best, including the kids.
Yes.
Which can be annoying. No question. Those things are hard. And what kids need more of is, I think, two things: human interaction, the real thing. And then second, patience. We live in a world of urgency.
Yes.
If we're really critical about it, we can say a lot of it is false urgency. Our idea of being in a hurry, doing more, faster, all of that. And kids are learning constantly. And there's no doubt life is full of pressures. And those moments to actually just sit and be, and maybe be conscious of the role. Doesn't always have to be teacher or teaching or correcting.
Yes.
Listening is such a powerful behavior to practice. Be curious about your kid. What do they think? See who they are. Those are things that in our busy, busy, busy lives, and parents are tired. It's all real. Yeah. The moments, whether they're 2 or 8 or 18 or maybe even 22.
Yes.
That practice of being in a conversation. Conversation is two-way.
Yes. Yes.
It's not always just correcting everything, directing and or admonishing.
Yes.
Finding that patience out. Be like, here's a moment I can just be in this with you and see who you are.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's such words of wisdom, Carolyn. That's a perfect segue in to my game, Now You're Talking, which I know you've played.
I sure.
And so what I'd like to do is ask you a couple of questions from the game.
Okay.
Just is a way of bringing people together, and strangers can become friends, and we can sit around the table and learn so much more about one another. And I've watched generations play together, and it's fascinating to hear the wisdom that come out of the mouths of these young kids. It's incredible. 8-year-olds, and 9-year-olds, like you mentioned. So what do you know now, Carolyn, that you wish that you knew in your teenage years?
I wish I knew I wasn't broken.
You wish you weren't broken.
I wish I knew that I wasn't broken.
I see. Okay.
Then.
Tell me more.
Oh, I think my own, I've done my work to really on myself. I think as the youngest in a family, and I know my parents, loved us deeply and brought their best as parents do. I know that now. I felt always less. And that's me. That's how I'm wired. I think I've really come to understand that. And I think I wish then I knew that wasn't it. I was just me.
Yes. And you were enough.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. We are all a work in progress, aren't we? And we continue to be at every stage in our lives.
Yeah.
So, and it's only by looking backwards can we really truly understand.
Yeah. Well, and if we think about how much energy, and this is maybe the gift we give as we become more, I think, aware and informed, it's the gift we give kids if we can remember that that's often the experience of kids. You know, this idea that we're never done.
Yes.
But being at the beginning doesn't mean you're any less than, or that you're not right, or you're not enough. But in fact,
yes,
I'm a work in progress. I think we're never too old to learn, as it turns out.
Yes.
Boy, is that ever a disruptive idea. And like for some people, grown-ups, that would feel like a very big assault on their ideas.
Yes.
To understand they're still learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I agree. We are in a constant state of learning, for sure. Who is your inspirational role model?
Oh my goodness.
I love your reaction.
Well, I love this game. This is it is all the things you've said. Strangers, people you know well, the experience of hearing these answers is a gift. Who's my inspirational role model? I have a collection of people.
Yes.
And I think it's maybe more qualities now in people. I think this understanding that everybody has something really remarkable, or many remarkable things about them. I think people who are clear and unencumbered by extreme versions of good ideas, like the idea that they're enough. People who live in the world with that comfort are people I want to be around.
Yes. Okay.
And that can be almost any...
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that comes through your childhood then.
Yeah, it does.
Because when I think of it, those two questions connect.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
And people who seem, I guess, like that kind of sense of like balanced confidence and empathy and emotion, that just, those grounded people who like the right version of ego. We all have ego.
Yes. Yes.
And a balanced sense of their roles, that their only reason for existing is not to save others. Like that to me is a little bit of a trigger in the world when people are wearing the big badge of honor on their chests. As my contribution to the world is I save others without regard for whether others need saving. Is sometimes how that
yes.
experience. Wow, yes. I'm really opening the vault here. Those are like, we're all in this together. We're all perfectly imperfect and human, and dropping those big people who have already dropped those big kind of rocks and have that kind of sense of themselves and humility, and really an appreciation that everyone is doing their best. Oh, generosity, yes. Spirit is yeah.
So some people, you're attracted to people who've gone through the whole, that have done as much introspection as you have, probably, and learn to let go of a lot of things and accept their own selves for who they really are.
Yeah.
And for all the imperfections.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So one more question. What lesson has taken you the longest to learn? I'm just going to keep asking these so I can get that reaction. Just keeps getting better.
Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy. Let's see. What lesson? Yeah, I think it's the lesson. How do I describe this lesson? I mean, it is all interconnected. My reflexive reaction, or my reflexive internal story, is that I don't have it right. And
it's
so
all connected.
The lesson to get that balanced, to have it be able to recognize when I don't have it right.
Yes.
I don't ever want to lose that. I want to not have so much energy wasted in the self-criticism that takes time and energy and is not helpful, and to be able to feel more comfortable, right? Okay, I do know this, and this is okay, and not in an arrogant, I know everything kind of way, but Yeah.
No.
I feel confident. I don't need to worry about that. That energy can be replaced with curiosity and listening.
Yes.
To others.
Yes.
Meeting others where they are.
Yeah. So giving yourself permission to accept that you do get it right. Not every time, like you say, but to actually give yourself credit for getting it right.
Yeah.
Okay. But boy, that's a thread. Isn't that a thread throughout your whole, those 3 questions that I asked?
Totally. I know.
It's just a complete thread.
There's like a whole body reaction for sure. There is.
Yeah. So what, thank you very much for sharing your authentic, true self there. What words of wisdom, Carolyn, can you provide to other parents who may be feeling alone in parenting or struggling with raising children at any age? What can you give them or say that will give them hope?
Yeah. Okay. So there's maybe 2 or 3 that I think. I'll start with that old saying, it takes a community to raise a child. It means something. We're humans, and family for sure first, right? Like that, your family is your home, your heart, your support. It's okay to trust others and trust others to come in and be part, not necessarily of family, but to add in and to trust them to be alongside as someone else, to be part of your child's life that you feel you can trust. And so it's, that is a really important thing for parents to remember. You're not alone. There are organizations and people,
yes,
neighbors, your close friends, maybe more distant relatives, maybe a special teacher or a person at the Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
Where, the kids can add in. And so let yourself be part of community that can be part of your child's life as an add-in alongside you. Never underestimate listening, power of listening. Tell me more, and curiosity with kids. And then maybe I should expand a little on that just to say, just want to talk about themselves. It's their way of exploring. It's their way of learning. And when adults, and in particular parents, are curious and listen, that's a really important combo there. Don't just ask the question and walk away or half listen, but really, give yourself the time to really be in it. To hear is so important because the world goes fast. And then, thinking about false urgency, which goes, I think, with patience. The giving ourselves permission to be in it. Take a few deep breaths, set aside time, prioritize that with kids, because it's the relationships in families, really, they can go 2 ways. They can be really hard, or they can be, it can go more than 2 ways. There's a lot of ways these things can.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it isn't, none of what I'm saying is about not having boundaries and expectations and being clear. It's in addition to that.
Yes.
Really remembering to sit down and spend time, whether it's in a board game. What an amazing way to, kids are brilliant and they're learning. They don't have everything right yet, but they're exploring it all. They're trying it all on.
Yes.
Curiosity, patience, listening, prioritizing that time, and recognizing kids don't always want. It's not always on your time frame that they're ready to sit down and be with you. Pay attention, take your moments, watch for them, and as much as you can, really take a pause and be like, this is a moment. I'm just going to sit down and be in this with this small human that I created or have as part of my family. Those are moments. So that adaptability to be able to say, no, I'm not doing I'm putting down my phone. Yeah.
And modeling that, and then being able to shift.
Yeah.
And say, this is my priority.
Yeah. Well, and even, being a bit creative, like the dishes need to be done. Okay.
Yes.
Let's do them together. Tell me about your day.
Yes.
Get the dishes done. Sometimes kids do better when they're not making eye contact or sitting straight in front, like an inquisition.
Right.
Like, listen in the car. Let that conversation roll. I hear that from parents all the time. The magic of car rides. You get all the dirt because they forget you're there. Like, there's, take your moments.
Yes.
Yeah.
Carolyn, thank you very much for your time and your insight and your wisdom. I think that this will be very, very helpful for parents.
Wow. Thank you for the work you're doing. This game is amazing. Your book is amazing. And
thank you.
These moments to share new ideas that actually are not so new.
Right. Stop, talk, and listen. Yes. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. If this conversation sparks something in you, whether it's rethinking your parenting approach, the role of social media, or the power of community support, share it with another parent or youth worker who could use this encouragement. And if you love today's insights, subscribe to Now You're Talking wherever you listen to podcasts. Let's keep creating safe spaces, asking better questions, and raising a generation ready to thrive together. You've been listening to Now You're Talking, parenting with a busy career while guiding kids through the lure of screens isn't easy, but meaningful connection is always worth it. Take a moment to start a conversation with someone you care about. It could be the highlight of their day. Until next time, let the conversations begin. Now You're Talking.
I'm Michelle Abraham, and we are honored to have Adrienne Giffen's Now You're Talking podcast on our High Vibe Podcast Network. For more high vibe shows like hers, head on over to highvibepodcastnetwork.com and grab your free gift from our gift vault from all of our hosts. Until then, stay high vibe.